All right, for our last one, let's learn how to draw a typical neuron. I say typical because there's a lot of different weird-looking neurons. And this is a typical one that just gets a signal from one place and transfers it to another. A neuron is going to have a lot of places where the signal can come in. Some of these are branched. They need to be thin, and it's going to kind of look like a bunch of trunks coming off of a tree. Or, well, you know what I mean. Okay, there's nothing to annotate on this, just a label. So these are called dendrites. That's where the signal comes into the neuron. And this right here is called the cell body. The cell body is like where the nucleus is. There's going to be a lot of organelles in here and things like that. So we just have our normal, typical old nucleus right here. Now the neuron is going to have a really long, thin part where the signal travels down, just like a cord or a wire. And that long, thin part is called the axon. And at the end of the axon, it's going to branch off so that it can connect to a whole bunch of other neurons to send a whole bunch of signals. You could add 3 or 4 or 5 of these here, but each one needs to end in a knob. And these are the synaptic knobs. All right, so now this axon is going to be covered up with these little cells. And we need to show that they're cells by drawing a nucleus in them. It can be anywhere in there, as long as we show the nucleus. And you should leave a little bit of a gap in between these cells. That's going to be important. That's something we're going to label. But this typical neuron is what's called a myelinated neuron, which means that it is covered by a sort of fatty layer of cells. So these cells are called Schwann cells. And they make this fatty substance called myelin, M-Y-E-L-I-N. And that creates a layer that is called the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath. Now, in between, we have a name for these little spaces in between the Schwann cells. These are called the nodes of Ranvier or Ranvier, not quite sure. Remember that one of the advanced options is to be able to describe how saltatory conduction works. And that has to do with these nodes of Ranvier. Okay, we've got our synaptic terminals, our synaptic knobs, and the end of the axon we call the axon terminal. That's it for how to draw a neuron.